You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and Fansided.com. We are the official ballroom chat for everything Toronto Blue Jays baseball, from game highlights to rumors and all the stuff in between. Here's your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and Liz McGuire. Now let's talk some Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
Boom, we're finally back, and wow, it's finally over. The Blue Jays season, the oh my God, I have a very love-hate relationship with the fact that it actually is over with. But Jason Lyons, the Blue Jays season has finally come to an end. How the hell are you?
Well, Craig, I wore pretty much all black based on the season and the theme of what we're going to talk about today. And I noticed this Chicago White Sox hat that I have looks a lot like Vladdy. Like this actually could be like Vladdy's logo. Some little dreads hanging out of the back here. But I mean, otherwise, treated to some of the most entertaining baseball I've seen in a long time over the last week. I mean, craziness going down in the playoffs, teams getting sniped, some colossal matchups that we're going to talk about. And, I think that we should maybe start with all of the stuff that's come out in the last week or so, the locker clean out and all that stuff. And then just the absolute tire fire
torture
that is, Ross Atkins and the whole, I mean, I don't know.
We're going to start there, but I want to go back and I want to give a tip of the hat to my, my tour guide over the weekend with Liz McGuire, because I happened to have a wonderful time Saturday and Sunday at the ball game and meeting up with Leslie Nope, Mish Beer and everybody else. And just had a great time meeting up with everybody in Toronto. It was a fun time, regardless of the fact that we still suck. And the AA Toronto Blue Jays basically lost to the AAA Miami Marlins. It's just what it was. But I think I'm wearing the perfect shirt right now to summarize at least the Saturday night. I don't get drunk. I got awesome. Because that might have been a little extra front. So
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that I missed it. It sucks living on this side of the planet sometimes, but
I'm gonna get you over.
I'll get out there one time.
Yep, we're still trying to figure out. We are going to find the spring training thing out. I really am confident that we're going to figure that out in some fashion. So, but on that note, Jason, the Blue Jays got destroyed and swept for 3 games that finished the season. It wasn't exactly the high note that we were hoping to finish up the season with here as we start Jaybird Watching episode 428. What are you thinking? Did you even watch any of it, or could you just not even hurt yourself?
Ironically, I did watch all 3 games, for the most part, I watched all 3 games. And I mean, there was a lot to be disappointed about. Barrios mailing in his last start of the season, and not even making it so that it looked like he was giving a shit or trying. That one really bothered me. The fact that Vlad didn't get to 200 again really bothers me. But I mean, I went back today and I looked back on a few things, and there are some real bright spots from the season. They're hard to find, and I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit later on in the campaign here. But
that's the reunion concert for all 3 of us together next week.
I think that the thing that bothered me the most was the people who looked like they had given up previous to the first pitch being thrown in the first game, and I get it. I get that they've had a tough season, and I get that, the support has been there in really weird ways. And, that when their starting pitching was great, their relief pitching was hot garbage. And, then they could hit, then they couldn't hit, then they could hit, then they couldn't hit. And I mean, it's, I understand it's how a baseball season works. And I understand a lot of good teams didn't make the playoffs this year. But I really feel like the Jays had a solid chance. I remember talking about this right before the season started, and they were kicking the crap out of people when they were their regular whole team before the season started. They were demoing. They were smashing people. And then all of a sudden that went away. And I think what we saw versus the Marlins was a whole lot of give up. The only guy who really, I mean, I can't take anything away from Horowitz. I can't take anything away from Ernie Clement. They work all the time. They never stop. Again, I can't take anything away from the other guys that were called up right at the end.
I got to see Nathan Lucas's first major league home run the other night. That
Nathan
worked.
Lucas. And how about Class A? I mean, The fact that the guy got thrown out trying to steal, I mean, did he try and steal first at some point? Because he tried to steal every other base. And let's make this clear, people that are out there. I don't care that he gets thrown out at third base with 2 games left in the season. Why the hell not?
Tried it.
Why not try it and see? It's a hard play to make. They've got to make 2 really good throws, and then that happens. And I mean, I think
it had to be a perfect throw even on that. So that
was almost safe. I mean, they had to review it. It was that close. But I love a guy like that. I love a guy that could be put into our lineup like that could add 30 stolen bases. Or I mean, what did we had to be last with 60. Oh. George Springer led the team with 60 stolen bases, and I think I could beat George Springer in a race. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. But to that point, I want to mention something. You mentioned something there really, really pundit there that made stand out, that the most Blue Jays fans did not see this season coming this badly. And I'm going to show you that one of the highest of all highs still made this mistake too. So postseason brackets in the last few days, obviously, as we're, actually done with a couple of wild card rounds already. And they put up all the MLB Now analysis people who their preseason playoff picks were. All people that picked them, Mark DeRosa had to wear it a little bit during that broadcast. Is he picked the Blue Jays going all the way to the ALCS, losing to the Orioles, and then the Orioles were going to play the Dodgers and lose to the Dodgers in his bracket. So not only did he get the Blue Jays flat out wrong, the Orioles got swept the other day.
Oh, so wow, was that a pathetic rough effort or what?
That was. They did. In all reality, too, I didn't know if either of those offenses wanted to win that series.
I mean, it's again, now that's as much as we've watched some incredible baseball, like the Tigers. I mean, we could spend the next hour for me talking about the Tigers, and they have my guy with my favorite name in all of baseball right now, Spencer Torkelson. I mean, I might just get a Torkelson jersey just because I like to say it.
Out. So just to close the stat loop on you, for the Blue Jays only had 3 other teams with less stolen bases than them this year, and that was the Braves somehow.
Really? Oh well,
San Francisco Giants and Twins. No Acuna.
Really? Wow.
Yep. So there was 2 playoff near teams there, but
crazy.
Can't steal runs is the other catch on that.
No, we can't.
So but
unless
anyway,
you're
as
Ellie.
you were. Yeah,
unless you're Ellie, then I feel like, watching some of the shit baseball we've seen, it made me think back to, exactly what the Jays did. What was that, 2 years ago or a year ago against Minnesota? Just crap. They got into the playoffs and they were like, and I feel like
3 times.
Yeah, I know. The Minnesota one really strong. So did the Seattle one though. But I feel like this whole party when you get there thing is something that that you just look like an idiot the next day. Like 2 days later, the Orioles look like idiots. They made all this big deal about, putting Jackson Holliday's baby bottle and stuff out there. And all, you know what? You played 2 more days. You played 2 more games than the Blue Jays did. Hurrah! Way to go!
Yay!
Like, who gives a crap? Like, if you're the Yankees, party away. If you're the Phillies, party away. If you make it through, go ahead. But if you're in a wild card situation, then you may want to shut
maybe the party's after the wild card.
Yeah, you may want to shut your trap until you actually make it through. Maybe ask the Astros about that one.
Yeah, and this is why I used to love it. It was game 163, right? That was what I liked about the wild card game. Just the game, sudden death, period. I don't have a problem with the series thing, but I just think you're a wild card team. You didn't deserve to be there. Friggin', you should only have 1 game to prove if you belong or not.
And I mean, what's the expectations? So you've got the Braves and the Mets. They have to play a doubleheader to determine who gets in and whether the Diamondbacks get in. Which, I mean, and I told you this before we started. So my wife is a big baseball fan by force. But she will watch a game. I mean, if we were to go to a game, she loves it. She does a lot of scorekeeping for the boys and does really like the game. But we were watching the first game of that Mets Braves game, and it kept going back and forth, and then another 2-run homer, and it's tied, and then it's this. And we had to leave to go out somewhere. And my wife actually said, wait a second, we're not going to go. We're going to watch the end of this. She didn't know that there was a second game. I had just told her it was and it gets infectious like that. But then the Braves are expected, and the Mets are expected to fly and play the next day. The Braves have to fly all the way across the country.
Yep.
And people out there don't think that I'm being soft on the Braves. I am not. The Braves have done their fair share of winning. They have had some incredible teams with some incredible players. But fair is fair. And if you've got the Padres sitting there like fat cats, and I guess they earned the right to be fat cats. And they've also, again, I'm kind of glad they lost because it creates Dodgers Padres,
correct,
which will be the vitriol season. Like this is Dodgers this is Mets Yankees. This is hatred. The people in California are pretty easygoing people, but I've been to games in every one of the stadiums in California, and when they play LA, they hate LA. They cannot stand them. And
yes,
even in some, like when we went to Oakland, my son was told not to wear his Dodgers jersey. And they're not kidding. Like, I mean, it's a real hatred. And the thing for me is
there's literally people that have died. Literally, people have died.
And I don't think the Padres have earned enough respect in the majors in the time they've been a team to be able to blow at anybody. But I mean, I guess if you're spending what's their payroll, got to be third or fourth highest in the majors.
I would think so.
It's massive.
They had to cut back because they were too far over. They were extenuating their needs.
Well, yeah, they had to do
their means, living beyond their means.
Some long-term injury too.
That's why Soto got traded. They wanted to keep him, but they couldn't afford to keep him and everybody else that they had. And now they got Musgrove that's going to have surgery on his elbow and all these other things. Anyway, I want to spin off of the hatred thing because there's plenty of hate in Blue Jays Nation right now, my friend. Before we start going, the second half of the show, we'll be talking pure Major League Baseball, pure playoff special. But this is a Blue Jays podcast. We got to at least cover the last bit of, I'll say,
100%.
hate. So outside of getting destroyed for the last game of the last series of the season, there's already enough things going on. First things first, before we get to the horrible train wreck that was the Blue Jays presser with management, the Blue Jays finally did one good thing, but my problem is I think it was 5 years too late in letting go of hitting coach Guillermo Martinez. It finally happened that somebody was fired.
Yeah, I agree.
To that point, to me, it was just like, he's still around. That was the thing that struck me. I get that he's been here for here and here and here, but the team hasn't hit in 3 seasons now, Jason.
No,
too late.
And you're 100% right. And then the one that surprised me, and I there's been a lot that have surprised me, but one of the ones that surprised me right off the hop was Mattingly moving back to being a bench coach of some level. I mean, I think the Mattingly experiment might be done at this point. I know John Schneider is.
I think there's a lot of experiments that should be done at this point, but that's besides the point.
I mean, I know John Schneider's sticking around, and I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of like John Schneider. I kind of like the way that he supports his players and the way that he is a bit of a bulldog, and he doesn't really give a shit what you think or the media thinks or whatever. I kind of like that, but. I feel like if they're going to do it, if they're just going to fire one person, it doesn't do anything. Like, you have to effectively make some major changes, especially, and this may be, may not rub people the right way, but I mean, Pete Walker may have to go. I mean, it's the pitching. Our starting pitching is our starting pitching, and Pete Walker cannot effectively do too much to our starting pitching. Those guys are going to throw what they throw. Yeah. They're good at what they do. And we actually had a pretty good 5-man roadie for the most part during the year. It was our bullpen that let us down. So that's Pete Walker's job, is to train the guys that are in the pen, make sure you're putting the right arms against the right bats. And we did not do that well. And I like him. I think he's a good guy and a good coach, but sometimes it's time to clean out the entirety of the bunker. And
can I just point this out? The team that swept us, and this is moderately hot off the presses, the team that just swept us for the last series of Major League Baseball has reportedly let go of every coach they had.
And that's
the
how
Blue
you
Jays
do
didn't
it.
have much of a better record than them, and then, like I said, we got dusted by them the last 3 games of the season, and I'm just sitting here going, why not us? Why not? And it just seemed very odd to me. But like I said, I was happy that a little bit was going in the right direction. I'm hoping there is more. And I just love that 3/4 of the people in this comment chain for that picture I just showed is like, Blue Jays, are you watching?
Yeah.
this is how you really do it.
It's funny how the narrative turns.
Tear into it. So
you don't want it to go there, but
and then,
when it does, it's like,
yeah. And then when you finally talk presser, we're going to go right into this whole fun because I'm going to share this picture because I think this one also sums it up really good. And there you go. Thank you, Internet. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, thank you, hot dog guys, for somebody seeing the hot dog guys and then making that.
Right now, the hot dog guys, our buddies, they might do a better job. I'd give them a chance.
Yeah, I would too.
At least they've been on this show. So, but Jason, how much of the presser did you see? How much you read? Talk to me. What you think?
I didn't see any of it physically. I did read
myself
a lot
as well
of it.
as I was at work for, unfortunately, a real day job.
Yeah, I know. I read pieces of it. I've heard pieces of it. As I was saying to you, I've been listening to a lot of the playoff games as I'm running around, and a lot of them started at 2:00 in the afternoon out here. So, it's perfect for driving around in between calls and doing stuff. But I did notice, when they were playing it, a lot of weird stuff going on and then like that weird interaction he had with that female reporter. And, it was almost like it was almost like he had a couple of cocktails before he came down, just because he's like,
I think at this point he had to, otherwise
like,
how are you going to survive?
Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Fire me?
Like,
you're not going to, like, look what I've done. I burned the whole building down. You're not firing me yet. So, and I think, something that Jays fans and the entirety of Jays Nation across the country, across the world, to, the people in UK, everybody that watches us on this show and tunes us in, we have to realize that Rogers at Sports or Rogers Entertainment or whatever they're calling it now is attempting to turn itself into one of the largest sports media companies in the world. So the fact that the Jays were bad and the fact that the management's bad and they made bad decisions, it's kind of like a drop in the bucket for them right now. Like, the guy that owns Rogers may wake up 2 months from now and be like, whoa, what happened? Like, where did all this come from?
Where did my money go?
Like, and where did my money go? And why aren't you fired? And so, I mean, that may still happen. They still may, pull the chute on a bunch of people. But, the Rogers is trying to acquire Maple Leaf Entertainment, which is the Leafs, the Raptors, the soccer team. Do they still play soccer? Toronto FC or something like that. And a bunch of other things that come with that. And so, like I said, we were talking about this before we came on. Like, I mean, the availability for them to spend $700 million on Shohei was there because of things like this. And so, next year, may we see the windfall? Maybe do they go after a Soto, or maybe do they go after?
Vladdy.
Well, they're going to play that. They're going to pay Vladdy, and they're going to pay him big. I think they actually might make a statement by his contract, and I think that might be why Vladdy has been okay to this point, not dealing with it. I think they came to him and they said, Vladdy, this is the number we're talking about, and Vladdy was like, oh, I'll keep playing. And when they showed it to him, I guarantee you it's around the time that his stats rocketed. Is they were like, this is what we're talking about for a number. We're not going to do it until the end of the season.
Go fishing.
Yeah, here's the meat in the tiger cage. Come get it. So
hot dog in front of the horse. So before we go too much further, I want to make sure we, friend of the show, Mish here online, who I had finally the pleasure of meeting. She has a wonderful comment about Donnie Baseball here, and that she just wants to make sure that he's on the platform at Spadina Station, making sure he's as quick as possible out of the dugout. Well played to that point. But Jason, that was the first thing that stuck out to me the most about everything going about watching I guess I didn't watch it while it was live, but I did watch it after the fact. Everybody's got their damn jobs still.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that blew my mind. I just don't know how you have that high of expectations that, usually the first person to go is always the manager. And regardless of the fact that you and I are both advocates of Schneider, if he wasn't going to go, you got to think that somebody was. And I figured if it wasn't going to be him, it was everybody around him. And they were going to say, this is your last chance, build up the right freaking people and go from there. If you're going to leave him there, it had to have been something like that. There's got to be a fire starter here in the midst of this whole thing. And then the fact that it didn't go as far as any Blue Jays fans were really hoping it would go, which would be everybody in the dugout all the way up to the front office. Nothing. Everybody's guaranteed their jobs. And to your point, fine, show up with a couple of cocktails and just go, look at, we're all here still. Like, it's rubbing right in your face at that point. It's like kind of what it felt like a little bit.
And it's not like there aren't people out there, that could take the job over. And if they are going to, if they are going to restart or could Gabe Kapler not be a better pick to usher in a young bunch of Blue Jays to try and, push the envelope? Like, Gabe Kapler may not have had a winning, record in San Fran, and he had a good team in front of him, but I always felt like he was handicapped. San Francisco's management is notorious for getting their hands in the pie while the season's going. So, I mean, 100% to your point, I think that it's ludicrous that the whole staff wasn't fired. I think
these are the same general managers that kept Daniel Vogelbach on this freaking lineup for how goddamn long this year.
I know. and I mean, I also think that it's ridiculous that Atkins and Shapiro both kept their jobs. Like, if you want to usher in change, you have to make change happen. And if we just go, and I think it speaks to what I was saying, where the Blue Jays are kind of operating over there right now. Like, there's all this stuff going on with Rogers, and the Blue Jays are just there. And as long as the walls don't fall in, they're like, Junior's got the keys
just
again.
Hold them up.
Yeah. So
just lean them up.
And it's funny when you look at it. I mean, when you're talking about Toronto and you're talking about Maple Leaf sports, I mean, you have to talk about the Maple Leafs. And if there isn't one thing that reflects the other thing here, it's the complacency of the Toronto Maple Leafs reflecting the complacency of the Toronto Blue Jays. So the expectations for the Leafs, ask any Leaf fan, are through the roof every season. They are. We're going to the Cup. We're going we got the plan, the parade route planned already, and yet they were so apt to make change. They just wouldn't do it. They wouldn't pull the trigger on it. And they had all these, it's the same as the Oilers. They have all these old Leafs and old, this guy, and Brendan Shanahan's going to come in and fix he's not, he's just going to collect a paycheck. Right. And he's hoping he gets fired so he gets paid for another couple of years and he doesn't have to deal with the Leafs. Yeah. I mean,
so just to put this in my terms, this is the same thing that the Buffalo Sabres are trying to do with bringing back Lindy Ruff.
Yes. Every time. I mean, how many times do they have to bring that guy back? Anyways.
Well, we can't win without him and Ryan Miller. That's just unfortunately how it is. So
I liked Ryan Miller. Anyways.
I love Ryan Miller. Class act. He's in car commercials now.
Really? I think that what wraps this whole Blue Jays season up in a nutshell is they were put out on the back porch and left there. And unfortunately, we got 130 games in before they were like, we should probably do something about this. And, did they make trades at the deadline? For sure they did. They absolutely made trades and they made moves. I mean, it didn't help the Jays. It did help salary and unload some other things and probably make things a little easier for next year. But, what's out there for next year? Like, are they going to take a big swipe at Soto, or are they going to, do they go back and the funny thing this morning, I was listening to Harold Reynolds and the guys on MLB talk about who the big stars that are out there and available. It was ironic because all they were talking about was the Jays needing to go after these guys. So the first one,
and to that point, that's a way to make a big splash and turn a frown upside down. I'm not going to argue with that, but Liz and I actually talked about this at length the whole weekend. The first domino has to fall to lead to an eventual Soto sighting is this team needs to have a face of the franchise, and that is 100% prioritizing and locking up Vlad Jr.
100%.
Do you think this office can actually get that shit done?
I mean, it's crazy to me to think that the next one down the list. So let's, we are in total agreement that they need to lock Vladdy up. So hypothetically, let's say Juan Soto is the next target on that board. Do you want to know who they, as a group, the MLB pundits, who they said the Jays should go after next?
Oh God, it's Alex
the biggest bona fide superstar that's out there. Plays in the outfield. He fits all the bill. He has a big bat, fits all of the bill for the Jays.
I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me. I'm not
Teoscar Hernandez.
Oh, fucking come on. I love Teoscar, but that's a jump from such a jump from going from Soto to him. And here in the ideal world, Craig Borden wants both of them on this team.
Right.
Because that's how I get a DH and that's how I get an everyday outfielder that can actually hit their way out of a brown paper bag.
But it was so funny. I was sitting in my car, guiltily smashing an Egg McMuffin at 5:30 this morning while my kid was at hockey practice. But while I was sitting there listening to them, I was like, are you really going from Soto to, and I mean, again, I love him, but those two things don't correlate. There has to be somebody in the middle between there.
And that's where that sounds like a very Mark DeRosa jump, because to that point, I agree with wholeheartedly. I've been saying bring Oscar back since the day we traded him. So there's no way in hell he doesn't fit in this lineup. The guy had his career year this year with the Dodgers because obviously everybody was on base around him. So the guy can hit, and he's honestly become a really good fielder. So I'm not knocking that one bit.
Yep.
Sign me up for Teo round 2, right? Not even worrying about it. I would look forward to seeing him and Vladdy in the locker room again in the dugout, throwing freaking sunflower seeds at each other, all over it. But you said that's like an epic jump. That's not even freaking like in the same ballpark as far as you got a guy that's 26, just like Vladdy in Soto.
Yeah.
To a guy that's approaching the end of his career that's going to get maybe a 2-3 year deal out of this.
Yeah, I mean, if you go through the list of available outfielders, so you got Soto being the top of the pile.
Correct.
The MLB then ranks Bellinger next. He does have an opt out, so he can stay in.
The question is if he does it or not at this point.
And then they've got with that. Alex Verdugo, Michael Conforto, Joey Gallo.
And to that point, have you heard what the weird thing is with Verdugo? He's like allergic to his own tattoos because he's gotten so many of them, and he's had some skin condition.
I don't know.
He's been having trouble gripping the bat.
Yeah, that's what
because of some things. Yeah, whatever. I just thought it was like I'm like.
It could also be that he's
I have family members that have nothing but sleeves.
Yeah, I know.
So
the well gets pretty. The well gets pretty shallow after old Juan comes off the board.
Yeah. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to throw back the other idea. If you can't get the talent, you might need the coaching, right?
Yes, so, exactly.
Michelle Mishbeer here comes in and says, "Give me third time."
Yeah, I think he's available.
And then. He's the bench coach or third base coach, I think, for our bench coach for the Mets right now. So there you go. And then here's that building out the rest of her coaching staff. Make Double E official and then get Jose Bautista back. Teach these kids how to be clutch.
Now you're talking about the Leafs, loading up on old, I feel like if you're going to do this stuff, start looking for guys who aren't on the map. Start looking for, the guy that turned the Astros around. Start looking for the guy that turned, the Orioles around. Like go find the hitting coaches that are turning the studs that are coming up right now into super studs. And get that guy. And the same with the pitching. Like if you can find a pitching coach that's aggressively looking at new, like one of the things they were talking about in the Mets Brewers game yesterday is the variety of hand grips that the pitchers that were pitching in those games were using. And it's even just the standing grip when they're getting into their set position. Every single one of them had a very deceptive way to hold the ball and all the rest of it. And then one of the things
along with hiding it while they're going.
One of the things they mentioned was how the Jays traded their only ball hider in Kikuchi. I mean, he's the only one that hides. Bassett has the ball out so you can see it the whole time. And we paid the price.
To that point, Kikuchi's also, even since going to the Astros, he found a way to improve on that. So somebody in that dugout taught him the next piece to it because he was incredible with the Astros.
There's good coaches out there.
Made that horrible trade deadline thing of us getting a 900 years of control out of it again go away real quickly. So, but back to the presser. back to all that stuff. I want to talk about the one main headline outside of the fact that some reason everybody else is still around. It was the most sleight of hands, backhanded slap at the same time from a certain gentleman about our best player, because he was asked flat out if Vlad Jr. is an elite Major League Baseball player. And it wasn't like that he just flat out and said, I don't have the quote directly in front of me, but it was kind of like just a misstep and a hesitation. He had a chance to give him a compliment for being the best player on this season without being like, oh, he's elite. I'm going to pay him $1 bajillion, which is obviously the reason why he wasn't trying to. He was the best team we had, our best player we had on this team this year is all the validation would need. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that. It just seemed like the stupidest thing to not give credit where credit was due to me.
I mean, I like that you sound like you're surprised. I like that after
I'm not shocked.
The amount of time we put up with this garbage and this garbage management, that you're not surprised. And, you know, for me, it's one of those situations where they have an opportunity to pull their heads out of their asses for a minute and give Toronto fans something that they can be like, oh, okay, these guys do have some idea what they're doing. You know, it's like Gary Bettman in the NHL. Like, he does so many screwed up things, and then he'll do one thing, and you're like, oh, you must watch a couple hockey games a year. You're not a total idiot. But these guys it's boggles my mind at the decisions that they make, and the fact that it just rolls right over. Like own it. Own the fact that he's probably the best hitter in baseball right now. I can't think of too many that are better right now. Just own it. You owe him a whole bunch of money, a shitload of money.
Yeah. So we got some great comments coming in the fun here, and we got a great one from, funny enough, Blue Jays granddad. I mean, dad. So, hey, buddy, how you doing? Long time no see. We got to get you back on the show. But the no collaboration thing. Oh my God, it couldn't be hitting the nail perfectly on the head. And just move on at that point. That's the great way of saying it.
Yeah.
So.
If you guys are not following Blue Jays granddad on Twitter, you're making a mistake. He has great takes. I don't follow a ton of people on, well, no, sorry, it's not even Twitter now anymore, but great takes, great guy to follow. He's hilarious. He's hilarious.
And to that point, bud, we got to get you back on the show. I can't keep running into you just on the walk-off podcast with our friend Scott. So good stuff. And there he is. Now, clearly he's paying attention. He goes, fire.
He is fire. You are fire, brother.
So I'm going to give a wonderful Twitter comment for the fact that, Lizzie's not here tonight because she's at a concert. Obviously, she's still a very big part of this show, and I had a great time with her this weekend. But I think her tweet from the other day is the perfect summary of the presser, because this one hits a little close to home for her. This Atkins Shapiro presser was more painful than when I took it. That 110 ball to the fucking head. And she's actually serious about that. And I know Lizzie, she's probably 100% all over that. I don't think she would just say that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
it was too perfect. I had to say it.
I think Michelle is it Michelle? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mish too.
Mish. Okay. So I think she's dead on as well. With mentioning the fact that this is also could be a real hero move for management to downplay it now and then throw a ticker tape parade when it comes to signing him. And then
told you I was right.
Yeah, Shapiro and Atkins look like they were orchestrating this. So really behind the scenes trying to make forget it. I mean, you
play that little puppets play.
You're going to sign this dude for a ton of money, and you're going to keep selling a buttload of jerseys, and he's going to be the face of the franchise, and everyone's going to want Uncrustables for the rest of their life. And, that's just where we're at right now. We're living in Vladdy's world.
Yeah, Vladdy's world. Party time, excellent. So I just think it's funny that you're talking about buying Vladdy jerseys. And this weekend I bought a $35 Loris Gurriel jersey at the freaking Toronto Blue Jays garage sale.
Yes, that's awesome.
It was brand fucking new. I was like, of course I'm buying this. Take my money. It actually fit. That was the crazier thing. It was all double X larges, and I found the one large in the whole site. So I win. So on that note, Jason, obviously we want to talk more MLB centric stuff here for the part of the show, but we do have this wonderful sponsorship thing that we actually got to play with here, that we're finally getting a little extra money to hopefully expand our little empire here to talk to more Blue Jays fans. But this is specifically for the American listeners, which is, funny enough, 50% of our viewership. So I guess we're going to play to my side of the pond here tonight. And just the fact that we are actually sponsored by Underdog Fantasy Sports at this point. It's been a fun time goofing around with it, with talking with them back and forth at this point. We're being endorsed for the, funny enough, just the baseball season, but we love football too and stuff like that. And you can play any sport on there. You just get your entries, get your picks in, pick it, and we have some fun. But on that point, go for it, Jason. I know you wanted to talk about some
well, yeah, I think one of the biggest things about this, and as we've talked about in the past, we've always discussed that we were going to make sure that we endorse the right products and the right things when they did come along. And this Underdog Fantasy thing is neat because rather than trying to pick teams or rely on spreads or any of this weird stuff, I mean, what you've got is you're taking your players, the players the players you love, and you're using those stats and hunches and all that other stuff to just go in and make some really fun, pick 'em bets on what those guys are going to do. The playoff stuff looks super fun. Again, the NFL is great. NBA should be fun too. I mean, the MLB stuff though for the playoffs, this is really going to pump things up. And there's over 1 million fans across 32 states that got into playing Underdog last year, and it's been fun for us. We've had a fun time kicking it around.
It's been fun in our chat group trying just to get the teams right every night.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the fun part about how you actually do the picking, it's all highs and lows. It's very simple, easy. You go in and you pick a group. So the minimum you pick 3 players that are playing in a game, and they can't be all on one team. So what we did for the last few Blue Jays games is we picked 2 Blue Jays and then a throw in from the team we were playing. I played like shit over the Miami series. Just saying. So we didn't do so good, but we're still breaking even. So something's right. But at that point, it was something fun for me, Liz, and Jason here that we've been doing together in a chat group and having a good time. And I just submit the picks, and it's nice and easy. But to that point, Jason, we got the spiel we got to read.
Yeah, we want to get everybody involved too. Like part of this, part of this is a call to action. We want to make sure that our fans, the Jaybird watching fans, are involved in this, and we get some sort of benefit of listening to the knuckleheads that are on this show. So, what we want you guys to do is we want you to go to their super to easy use mobile app or go to underdogfantasy.com. You have to sign up with promo code Jaybird. That's capital JAYBIRD, all caps. And Underdog will give you guys a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry. Plus, if you enter a first-time deposit, you could get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So when you go, that's Underdog Fantasy, either on the app or on the website. The promo code is Jaybird, all caps, to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. Now, here's the real mumbo jumbo. I'm going to really run through this as quick as possible.
And this is where the fun is that, unfortunately, it's only Americans only. And it's coming to Canada eventually.
So you have to be 18 plus, 19 in a couple other states. You know where you are, Colorado especially. Present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms do apply. You have to void in Colorado. If you are concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. in Arizona, or 1-800-NEXT-STEPS. You can also text Next Steps to 53342. In the New York area, you can call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK, or you can text Hope New York to 467-369. Remember, get in there. Jaybird, get it. The code is Jaybird, all caps. Get in there and have some fun.
Yep. There you go, everybody. So I promise we're done with the advertising for tonight. So let's talk some Major League Baseball, Jason. This has been a crazy wild card round, and it has been very exciting for baseball fans in general to watch. There's been a few games that myself, outside of certain games with certain Blue Jays fandom in 2015 and whatnot, this has been a very fun wild card series. Watching, I want to start first with the Tigers Astros. Who in the world saw this coming? And as a Blue Jays fan, most of us don't like the Tigers.
No.
But that rival has been long put to bed since the late 80s, early 90s. And to that point, anybody that takes the Astros down, the only one that's better than that book is anybody who takes the Yankees down to me. So there you go.
Anytime you can associate Thomas Magnum with a team, I think you're in the plus, right? Like, I mean, they've got Magnum PI going for them, and then they beat the Dirty Dogs of Houston. I mean, it's storybook stuff. And speaking of Underdog Fantasy, there was some money could have been made right there in Underdog Fantasy. Remember, Caps Jaybird. But it's funny when you take a series like that. I coach with a guy named Chris Randall. He's one of my best friends, a great guy. And what he is, if he isn't anything, is he is an unbelievable strategic coach. And so what he can do is he can take a team like we had this year. We can go into a 4-game series against the best teams in the province, and we can go 4-0. And the reason we can do that is because he plans the pitchers against the situation and sticks with them. Whereas I was watching during the not only that series, but other series where they're making moves based on what's happening, not just letting the baseball game play out. And in a lot of cases, you'll come back and win those games if you just stick to your plan. And correct. I mean, we saw it when they pulled Berrios. We've seen it before as Jays fans where they've made mistakes based on one thing happening. Like a home run is a home run. It's going to happen. Reset. Yep. Nobody gets a 10-run homer. Like, I mean, if they take the lead with a 3-run homer,
it's not banana ball.
No. And so it's one of those things where, you have to have some respect for the game, and you also have to trust the team that got you there. Like as much as it pains me to say it, the Astros don't suck, right?
No. And they did the last 2 nights, but that's besides the point.
2 months ago, the Tigers were like 9 games out. They're not.
There was a point.
Yeah,
they had the same record as we did.
Right.
The only review.
It was a joy to watch. I'm just going to say that it was like watching. It wasn't a massive underdog story, but it was one of those ones where the 7, 8, 9 hitters just kept punching them in the face. Every time they came up, they were like, "What are you going to throw? It doesn't matter. I'm going to hit it." It was fun to watch.
But to that point, you finally saw I'd say you finally got the scale that what is Tarek Skubal in that first game. He is easily outside of certain phenoms that haven't had enough tenure. If you're looking at somebody you're building a rotation around today and you're going to pick somebody, he is probably one of the guys that's going to be at the top of your list, if not the top guy. And correct. And top 2. Right there. Yeah. My question is, I'm trying to build a team from day one, and I'm hoping to be good for a few years. I've only seen the one season from Skeens. I agree. He's got nasty stuff, and watching him pitch against the Yankees the other day was hilarious, by the way. Yeah. They looked like they were swinging a boat oar.
Yeah, I know.
But Skubal has now 2-3 solid years like this in a row, and he's pulled out all the stops. You know what I mean? There is just my worry is that at some point somebody's going to figure out something with Skeens, but Skubal's figured out how to be a major league pitcher at this point. And there is no ding at all against Skeens, because that boy is incredible just as much as anybody else.
He was throwing dimes. He was untouchable.
Yeah. Correct. So but to that point, I was very happy to see, and the Tigers did the same thing they've done the last parts of the year. There is contribution throughout this lineup. It's not just one person running with it. You got a great start from, like I said, from Skubal. And then the second game, you got a great one from, who I forgot. I had it in front of me. Holton was the bullpen day thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So you got him going, and then they just kept marching through it. And honestly, at the end of the day, if that's what the Tigers had to do, they're building themselves up after, they wanted to run off their offense, and they did. Meadows had a home run in the second game and kept going, and you got 2 games in a row where they scored five runs.
Yeah. And I mean,
3 runs and 5.
If you go and look at the stat line, especially from that second game, I mean, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had 6 walks. I mean, that's crucial in a game like that. Like to sit back.
Houston dug their own grave.
Yes.
Too many people on base. Somebody's going to hit somebody in.
You got it. And it was a well-played series. Hats off to the Tigers. Who do the Tigers play now? Yankees?
No, they'll play Cleveland.
Right. So I hope they lose now, because
talking about the rivalry right there, because that is 100% been the division rivalry. Since the Tigers became relevant, they've been throwing at each other. That's going to be a fun series to watch.
Yeah. Bunch of Canadians on the Guardians. So
yep. There you go. The Nailer boys. I do have before we move on to the other series. Somebody had to say they were right. Yeah. And now she's all smug about it. Well played. Glad you're commenting in there, Michelle. We appreciate it. So on that note, let's move on to the next series, which is the other American League series, which was ironically, in my opinion, I was expecting that to be a lot more exciting. and it turned into they couldn't push a run across the home plate if they tried between the Kansas City Royals and the Orioles.
It was the Sacco Bowl.
It's the Sacco Bowl.
That's from
Regans
the
and Burns were just at each other that first game, and I was shocked that they pulled Regans when they did. He had only like 80 pitches or something like that, but then that inning, Bobby Witt Jr. just happened to score in a run, and there you go. Sorry, Orioles, that's game 1. And then game 2 was very much the same thing with a whole collective amount of 4 runs scored in a 2-game series, Jason.
I mean, great defense. I don't know if you watched it, but I mean, there was a lot of balls hit into the gap, hit over guys' heads, hit into places where normally they're probably not all getting caught. But I mean, great D. And Bobby Witt Jr., I mean, come on. Like, this guy he's everything.
You talk about people that could be the face of baseball.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that's up in that top 10, especially as the Mookies and everybody start getting older.
Yep. Yeah.
He's only getting better.
You've got such a talent there. And I mean, it's nice to see Sal Perez back there, wheeling his butt out there, and he played well for what is he, 43 or something like that? Like,
no, he's not. He's only like 36 or something. He's not as old as he. It just seems like he's been playing here a million years.
He's got road miles on him.
Come on. You saw that video where he was taking the kids to school in Kansas City, right? Playing wiffle ball in the backyard.
No, yeah. I did see that. It was awesome.
So it was a fun one, but
again, I'm not a big fan of the Orioles.
Being back was a big one too on that whole thing. Is now you had somebody that really separated out Witt and Perez in that lineup. You had him being able to be the pop there in the 5 spot.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of the Orioles. I like their team. I like the way they play, and I like a bunch of the moving parts of it, but I don't like them because of where they are. But, and I actually think that, Royals Yankees, that's going to be a great series. Like,
who's already trying to rekindle the rivalry?
Who?
Georgie freaking Brett.
George Brett. Love some
trying to get the Pine Tar incident all over again going. And for the younglings that are watching tonight, if you want to watch one of the craziest, I'll say, string of events in Major League Baseball history, look up George Brett Pine Tar. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yankees, Royals.
And then go to a little league game
for that rivalry.
Go to a U13 game and watch a kid empty an entire can of Pine Tar onto his bat and just be like, wait a second.
I'm supposed to only have it somewhere on a bat.
Yeah, only supposed to be somewhere, not everywhere.
Yeah, not above the trademark or even
on
the trademark.
The ball's sticking in your hand.
It's like what was it, that movie, The Replacements, where he had the ball stuck in his hand? He's like, trying to get it off. You take this.
Yeah.
So good stuff. But yeah, no, that's gonna be a fun rivalry there. So I'm looking very much forward to that series, because even all year, the Yankees and Royals, I believe, split the series against each other this year. So, or it was damn near close to that. But let's go National League. Yeah. We got National League. We got the I lost the card.
Start Braves Padres.
So it was let's do Braves Padres first, because that one's actually done. So that was an interesting series, is I think about the best way of saying it, because Padres jumped out really far, 4-0 on that first game. And then yesterday it took a very clutch performance from Jackson Merrill again that kid is clutch, my friend.
Unreal.
It's unreal. Did you hear the weird thing that Liz and I talked about with the 3 rookies that are named Jackson this year?
Holiday, Merrill, and who's the other one?
Jackson Holiday, Jackson Merrill, and Jackson Chorio for the Brewers.
Oh, yeah.
Who is also having a hell of a season and postseason so far.
Isn't there something weird? Like, don't they all have the same birthday or something?
It's something, there's about 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon level shit going on here. But the one that we talked about last week was, I found this crazy stat that the 3 Jacksons is their nickname. They all hit their major league first triple on the same day.
Script.
How does that work? It doesn't happen like that.
It's the guys who do the NFL scripts going to the MLB for a couple days. The MLB is like, how do these scripts work? And they're like, we'll show you. We write the game up before it happens. And then they just duplicated it, and they didn't mean to. They were like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
We got all 3 Jacksons hitting a triple.
Yeah. So to that point, Mike King is one of the better stories that nobody's talking about in Major League Baseball. I love how this guy has went from being a solid, great reliever for the Yankees to being a stud starting pitcher for the San Diego Padres.
Yep.
Emphasis on stud, because he looked hella good on the first game of the series. So, and then watching Max Fried get beat up yesterday was not the funnest thing for the most Braves fans.
No, but I mean, Fried is also an unrestricted free that may be a conversation piece for the Jays for next year. I like him, and I like the fact that his last showing was not good. And so that makes him a little cheaper.
He had the most bipolar season ever, because my brother and I had him in our fantasy baseball league, and it's the old school type where it's really more the stats at the end of the season matter, not week to week. And I'm like, just stick with him, please. Just trust me. And then he went off, and it was just amazing after having one of the worst starts. It was very Jose Barrios from a couple of years ago, from the beginning of that season. And then he ended up putting a solid, very Max Fried looking season together. And then first postseason game out the gate, done.
Yep.
Bad. So it's going to be interesting to see what his market does, because he's 100%. Also not on the inside. So anyway, last series, the only one that is still currently going, and the third game is going to start pretty much in the next few minutes.
Yep.
Actually, I take that back. It's already in. It started at 7. I thought it started at 8. So they're already middle of the third, 0-0, 2 hits each. So Mets and the Brew Crew. So first game, it was very, very back and forth for the first 3, 4, 5 innings or so. And then the Mets come back from a 3-4 deficit for 5 runs in the 6th and run away with it.
Yep.
Jason, the beginning of this game literally had Luis Severino bean somebody with the bases loaded.
Yep. I mean, it was an intro. I watched the whole game, or pretty much the whole game yesterday. I flipped back and forth between it. I'm not a big fan of the New York Mets. They just
you don't like Grimace?
I love Grimace. Don't get me wrong. I love Grimace.
Grimace.
I don't know what it is about the Mets that is so unappealing. Like Pete Alonso.
Is it the New York connection? The Yankee connection?
I don't know. Maybe Pete Alonso has the personality of this pen. Like, I mean, it's and he looks like he wants to be there. He's like 0 for his last 35 or something. And Lindor looks like he could give a crap where he's at. Like, I mean,
I'm just going to put this here while you're bashing the Mets.
Yeah, I know. Just rip into them. And I don't think that it's a hatred for the Mets. And I've never really felt it before watching that game. And I don't particularly think I'm a Brewers fan either. I guess anytime anybody plays a team from New York, they feel like the underdog. And so you almost want them to beat them just because of that. And I mean,
and the Mets and the Brewers were the first team in Major League Baseball to actually clinch a playoff spot. Mostly that's because of the division they play in, but that's a whole.
And they wholesaled. They got rid of everybody. Right. They traded off all their big number guys.
You traded your best pitcher, Corbin Burns, who was a Cy Young Award winner.
I think the other thing that we glossed over there was the salary for the entire Tigers is $18.8 million for their 26-man roster, and one of the pitchers for Houston makes 19. Who is it? Josh Hader?
It's Hader, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'm all for it, man. And
who was that? And there was, just think about this, because that Detroit Tigers thing is even more wild when you talk about the collective thing, when seeing Javi Baez makes 3/4 of that.
Yes. It's crazy.
So this shows you that you get the right people together. And this is the same thing, I think, with what's going on with the Brew Crew. Team chemistry and talent has gotten them to where they are, because you didn't know if Jackson Chourio was going to have a rookie of the year level season. This kid is incredible.
Unbelievable.
I am only looking forward to seeing the athleticism from this kid.
Sees the ball at the plate and in the field like very few have. He's just unbelievable.
And then you got a resurgent, continual home run level hitting shortstop in Willie Adames still. You got a great season from William Contreras behind the dish. Yep. And then you got also the Reese Hoskins and the Sal Freliks. This lineup got really deep with these youngsters just doing what they did. Bryce Terang stole like 30 freaking bases from them in their 9th spot.
I know.
That's a hell of a turn. That's Kevin Kiermaier from last year going around to get back to the top of the order. So that is really, really cool to see what they're doing. But to that point, if I'm rooting for the Mets, I'm rooting for Gibby right now. That's about what I'm I'm rooting
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
My pick was the Brewers. So I'm hoping the Brewers come out of the box tonight and continue to do what they're doing. So I want the Cinderella story to win just a little bit longer. As much as I'd like to see Gibby win a World Series, I need Bob Uecker to be alive for when the Brewers actually win a World Series.
100 million%.
And he might he might die right in the celebration because he peed his pants during the one getting in the playoffs. So
I know.
he says the joke. I'm just saying that, everybody. So somebody's gonna clip that one into a horrible meme that Craig said that Bob Uecker does horrible things. So, but that's the baseball guy in me. He's one of those guys like how why am I blanking on his name? Astros manager last year, Dusty Baker. He deserved, regardless if it was with the, I'll say the most stained team in recent baseball history with the cheating scandals. And I just didn't want to see Jose Altuve win anything ever again in my life if he can possibly do it. Especially now that everybody's like, oh, he's a Hall of Famer. Are you sure? I don't know. So what do I know? But I just think there's certain players in baseball that deserve to get that. I agree. There's plenty of Blue Jays that have missed that opportunity over the years and didn't get to have the fun of our recent guest, Todd Stottlemyre, especially twice. But really cool that if he gets a chance to do that. And to that point, that'll make a very fun postseason in the National League too, because if they move on, they play, I forgot. I'm blanking on who they play. Phillies. That's right. I was like, who's the only other team that skipped in? So,
they're a pretty good one. Don't sleep on them.
Yeah, they are. I'm not sleeping on the Phillies one way or the other, but I do think there's something for being the hot hand. And I want to go into, so let's just, I know we don't know the outcome, but we can run with who we hope wins tonight for the game tonight. I'm guessing you're hoping the Brewers win.
I am a Brewers guy.
I am enjoy beer for the Brew Crew too. Hey, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I said I enjoy beer. I'm a Brewers guy and I enjoy beer.
Cheers, bud. So on that note, I'm rooting for that just for the fact that I loved when Roddy Tellez went to the Brewers and really, coined the term that where we ended up turning this into the barroom chat for Blue Jays fans was from Roddy during a conversation. So thanks, Roddy. Yes. So on that note, I wanted to see him get a chance to win and go and keep going and whatnot for the Brewers. I do think that they could be sneaky against the Philadelphia Phillies. And this is why I'm going to say it. Momentum has been just key since the wild card thing has been a thing in Major League Baseball. Right now, I have a very hard time seeing certain teams get steamrolled. And right now, I think the Detroit Tigers are one of those teams riding the wave right now. They're either going to trounce the Yankees or they're going to get destroyed. I don't think there's much of a middle ground there. So what do you think as far as that carrying momentum?
I tend to agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of people say that momentum doesn't pass through games, doesn't pass through periods, doesn't pass through innings. It does. For sure it does. And if you're hot and you're feeling it, the Royals are hot and they're feeling it. I don't know if you saw their celly in the dressing room. It was probably a lot tamer than the rest of the cellies that I've seen. But it was all, and it was all team talk. They were all talking about the team. They were all talking about the job they have to do. And, I mean, if all things go correct in the baseball world, the Yankees would lose. I know there's a lot of Dodgers haters out there, but I mean, I happen to think I am of the thinking that I would like to see the Dodgers in the World Series. I would like to see Shohei finally be there. I like to see that lineup be able to see what it can do. And I mean, I would
come and see the show, meaning
and I mean,
is kind of what this is right now.
As you know, I am a big Phillies guy. I always have been. And again, my brain says, Phillies, I want them Phillies in there, but the show that would be Ohtani in the World Series would be electric. There would be, crazy fans in the stands. There would be all of LA would be coming out to the games. And I mean, as much as that doesn't need to be a part of it for the World Series, it should be a part of it. It should be the most awesome thing going for a week and a half or 10 days or however long it lasts. And, I've got a couple of buddies that are flying down from Vancouver to Philly to watch the games on the weekend. And,
nice.
I don't know of another city that when they're rolling isn't a better place to be. You just don't want to be there when they're not rolling. That's why they have jails in all of
the other direction.
Sports buildings.
Jails are the American way. You know that, right? So, but to that point, so if you were, I'm not saying for the other thing that we were talking about here, but if you were hoping and playing, who are you thinking? Detroit, Cleveland?
I'm going Cleveland.
You're going Cleveland?
Yeah, I think the runways run out for Detroit. I think they've got two good pitchers. You can't win a series at length with two good pitchers. You just can't.
Yeah, I only point you in the direction of the 93 Philadelphia Phillies.
Yes.
So that's exactly what happened. As much as I love the Cinderella story and I love the fact that the Tigers are in, and I want to see my buddy Steven Spencer see a Detroit Tigers win here, I'm hard pressed. I really am, but I have a strange feeling if they can play enough games, they're at least going to win two, because Skubal's going to definitely pitch two series games,
which would be great. I mean, it's what you want to see, right? You want to see the big guns go.
But there is something about the bye that still scares me, to the point that the Cleveland Indians might come out on their heels and not expect what you're going to get from the Tigers. So if I'm a betting person, I'm thinking the Cleveland Guardians. Sorry, I almost went there. Take that series. What are you thinking, KC versus Yankees?
Well, I want KC, but it's going to be the Yankees.
Yeah. Unfortunately agree with you.
I think KC is going to run out of real estate. They got a lot of heart. They got a lot of chutzpah, as they say. But I don't think they've got the guns. Whereas on the other side of things in the National League, I mean, you're looking at warships. You're looking at at 4 warships going at it. And
I don't think the American League teams are built like the National League teams in this playoff bracket right now. So it's going to be interesting to see. So let's go to the National League. Let's run with the idea that we both picked the Brewers to win tonight.
Yeah.
So let's, just for the sake of this, is going to be on the air for a week before we really get back together and talk. So it'll be basically game 6, 7 of those other series. Yeah. Let's assume it's the Brew Crew versus the Phillies. Who are you picking?
Phillies.
Without hesitation. This is the one I'm gonna say 7 games Brewers.
For me,
but it's gonna be 7 games.
I watched a number of Phillies games this year, and then we watched the Phillies roll into Toronto, and they are a machine. And now that Trey Turner, and we didn't address it or show it, and we should have when it happened. I mean, maybe at our year end we'll show it, but I don't know if you saw what they did, but Turner was like 0 for 26 or something, and this fan sent this thing out on a Phillies chat and said, we need to give Trey Turner a standing ovation. What did they call it? They called it the standing Trayvation or something like that.
Yeah.
And so
I remember seeing that.
For no reason, they stood up and gave him a standing O, and he had a double into the gap and broke the thing. And he's been on fire ever since.
Yeah, the Phillies fans have done that a couple of times funny enough, that's the second time they've done it for Trey Turner. He's after he signed there as a free agent last year. Same kind of thing happened. So they redid it this year.
Yep.
And then I want to say they did it for Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah, they did.
And then he hit
for sure.
Yeah, same thing. So, but that's a really cool Philly thing that they do. I really do think that that's the fandom that baseball misses a lot of times, that you don't see. Those are the only stories that you hear on podcasts like us and things like that, because that's what baseball is all about.
And I know that everybody's talking
one of your best
about
players.
Yeah,
go.
Everybody talks about the Dodgers lineup. Everybody talks about the Padres lineup. You go and look at that Phillies lineup and compare it to anything that we've seen in the last 5 years, and you're just like, oh snap! Like, you don't even realize at some points how good JT Realmuto is, or they're good everywhere. Like, Jason Baum has turned into a real baseball player. Like, he's a really good baseball player now, and that's scary as hell for a guy his size.
He's an all-star, Alec Bohm now.
Yeah. So I mean, did I call him Jason?
Alex. Yeah, you did. It's just because you just like the name Jason. I get it.
Yeah.
But I have a gut feeling about the Phillies. There's something that's messing with my brain. That something is going to go wrong, and that's the series that's going to go wrong. And I hope I'm to that point. I don't care. This is me as a baseball fan. Like I said, I have a gut feeling, and I'm going to run with it. I trust my gut. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll lose the money. Who gives a shit?
And then Dodgers Padres is going to be a knockdown, drag out. like it's going to be every game going to extras. It's going to be Manny being Manny. It's going to be Mookie being Mookie. It's going to be, like just the whole thing. Like, I mean, the two lineups are incredible. Tatis is on fire right now. Like, just they both. I literally don't know. I've been as excited about a series that didn't involve the Jays in a long time. This thing's going to be must-watch TV, and it's in my time zone. Every game is in my time zone, so I can come home and watch it
with normal.
Yes, like a normal, civilized human. And get drunk on a Tuesday for no reason.
So, Jason, we have one more thing we have to do before I let you go. We have this wonderful Picks the Click thing, and we have a tiebreaker. I don't know if you knew that because you weren't here last week, but you and Liz came all the way back because she had Vladdy last week. So she is tied with you for 7 wins apiece. So, like I said, she came all the way back, and we only have 3 games to decide the ship. Because the other funny thing is, if I get one more win, I actually tie our guest spot for the last place. So it'll be But right now, currently residing in the basement, just like our Toronto Blue Jays. So last week I had Jonathan Clausse, and then you got defaulted because you weren't here to, I'm sorry, Joey Luperfido. And then Lizzie picked Alejandro Kirk. And then the guest spot, we defaulted to Addison Barger last week. So here we go, looking at who had the most hits last week, because this is going to be an interesting one. Because none of these names are at the top of the list, because the best performer in those 3 games was Nathan Lucas.
Yep.
Stuart Baroa was the next one that had the next best series. Ernie Clement, which is saying a lot, seeing he really only had the 1 home run. Vlad Jr. had 2 hits to get to a stellar 199 for the season.
Brutal.
And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse here. So where is Barger and Kirk?
Should we tie break it with next week about a game or something?
I think we're going to have to give you guys some kind of a trivia contest here, because I'm not going to lie. They both had 2 hits.
Yeah. Terrible. Awful.
Both 1 walk each. It was toilet bowl level because nobody could hit, and they didn't play enough games, either of them, to really separate.
Nope.
Joey Loperfido didn't even have a hit and struck out 4 times, so that might be your ding to Alejandro Kirk's literally 1 hit. Oh, sorry, 2 hits. But I don't know if I feel like a stupid gesture is more appropriate here for the winner.
We'll figure it out. We'll kangaroo court it this week and see what we get.
Yep. Yeah, I like that idea. I think we'll figure it out. We'll have final arguments on why.
Maybe anybody who's any of the viewers, any of the listeners, anybody, if you got any fun ideas for what Liz and I should do to see who wins a Pick to Click, throw them in our socials. Throw them, email us, email the show.
Yep, this is all for bragging rights until this time next year, because Ken was the current winner, and now Ken's been obviously relegated down to an editor role for our show here, so the unnamed, unseen 4th member of the team here. But thank you, Ken. We do appreciate everything you do for the show. But Ken was the victor last year for Picks to Click. We need a new champion. Like I said, we got to figure out something here. I feel like I got to print out a stupid trophy from the 3D printer behind me and make sure I mail it to you or give it to Lizzie.
I'm excited.
Good deal. So stupid gestures to be incoming for what we're going to figure out here for the winner. And so to that point, Jason, end of the show. Is there anything you want to get off your chest or talk about before we wander off?
The only thing, super quick, and I didn't get to say anything last week, RIP to Pete Rose. He was an inspiration to a generation of kids that were my age. He was Charlie Hustle for a reason. The fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame is an absolute and utter joke. We've got
in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. We betting has become the norm now.
Yes,
it's not something that's frowned upon or unless, I don't know. There's been some weird ones. There was that guy with the Senators last year, which is kind of weird, but irregardless, which isn't a word, by the way. It's one of those things that when it happens, you got to ask 3 or 4 people, did it actually happen? I remember being a very, 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 very young child living in Ontario and us driving down for spring training. and a plucky young kid got put onto the field with the Cincinnati Reds, and Johnny Bench and Pete Rose and all those guys. And I was on the field with them, farting around before a game. So he'll always be near and dear to my heart. And, I think baseball, you lost certainly, you've got your John Daly's and you've got your characters, your Don Cherries and those kind of guys. And Pete Rose has been a character his whole life and will continue to be even when he's not being here. So,
yeah. So well played, sir. Well played. I do want to thank the 50 current live listeners we have in. We greatly appreciate you listening to the show live, because it is a lot more fun when we do see those comments rolling in. Make sure you do chime in, because we do really, truly enjoy having that. That was the reason we started this podcast many years ago, 428 episodes ago. Make sure you chime in. We are the Barroom Chat for Blue Jays fans here on the Jay Bird Watching podcast. Make sure you're listening live each week on Thursdays at 7:00, unless we all of a sudden have off-season schedules that we have to change up, because Jason's kids are at hockey every 5 minutes. So TBD on that, but we're going to continue rolling on Thursdays at 7:00 until further notice. We will alert you through all our social media channels if something changes. And make sure you're listening after the fact on anywhere you can get your podcasting pleasures from, and make sure you leave us a review. It greatly helps us get to more Blue Jays fans. If you're on Apple Podcasts, just drop one of those reviews in. I don't care if you literally put 5 stars and say Craig needs to shut up. I really could care less.
Or Jason should cut his hair. Like, whatever you got.
Yeah, same thing. My bow hair is going to go away. I need to make sure it's just a Christmas beard by the end of the time of Christmas. So anyways, hope you all have a great weekend. And obviously we'll be here to chit chat with you for more Blue Jays baseball, and make sure you have stuff on social media and keep the chat rolling. Cheers. Yep. See ya.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at BirdwatchingGC, and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider joining to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.
Woo!